We're going to talk about reactive with observables, data flow, what is RxJS and observables, how they work together, and some of the common operators. And we're going to scratch a little bit about async pipes, although Lucas touched on a little bit about it yesterday for like 10 minutes. So if you missed it, it's not that big of a deal because it's super easy. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So reactive with observables. In the observer pattern, there's an object called a subject, and that just maintains a list of its dependents called observers. And then they're just notified when events happen on some stream. So this is like a push strategy. So instead of like, asking for information and being greedy, like, hey, have you changed that? Have you changed that? With observables, you sit there and you're notified when something gets changed, which is a different approach. So RxJS is just a reactive extensions, which is like this huge paradigm about observables that a team of people created for JavaScript, Microsoft. So we'll go over some of the common ones. So like I said, it's a set of library to compose asynchronous and event-based programs using observable collections. There are tons of operators for RxJS. I mean, it's ridiculous, so much. I don't think you'll ever learn them all. Like, you just won't. I'm still looking at someone like, what is that? Okay, I don't know how they do it. But yeah, the learning curve is steep. I was talking to Lucas and some other friends of mine like weeks and months ago. I'm just not sure about RxJS. I just don't know. Like, I'm not convinced. And it's because the learning curve is so steep. And I was just like, I don't know. But then I got to like very, very productive or practical examples, like as far as like UI and stuff. And I was like, okay, this makes sense. Some required reading here. So if you haven't read this book before you came today, we got to stop now.
Yeah, workshop's over.
We need you to read this.
So I put this in here. This is a really, really good book on RxJS, and it's a pretty easy read. I think I read it the first time in just like 2 days. I continually reread it and look at different parts. One of the things that he does that I think is quite impressive is he builds a game that has no state in it. Other than, like it's pretty much a stateless game because it's just observables all the way down. And so that's, once I kind of saw that again, like my mind just continues to shift into this functional reactive paradigm that is observables. But this is a really great book. I can't recommend it enough. Lots of practical examples. One of the biggest things you're going to run into with RxJS is all of the operators. You just cannot remember them all. You'll maybe remember 4 or 5 or 6, but he covers some pretty good use cases for these.
Yeah, and if you're like me and not like Lucas and can't learn from books, just build a whole bunch of stuff. I can't read the books. I don't have an attention span for it. I'll just be like, nope. So here's an example of some basic observable.
You don't have the attention span for a book, but you watched Jafar's course, right?
But I can watch a course. Yeah. But reading a book is slightly different. Too many distractions.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So right here we have this get async stock data, which returns some type of data somewhere. Maybe it's a promise, maybe it's an observable. And then, well, actually it is an observable in this case. So now because it is an observable, we have access to the operators like filter and map. Those aren't operators on an array, although they have the same names. So source is not an array. So this isn't the array.prototype.filter, array.prototype.map. These are the operators on RxJS. But they actually do the same thing. So I think that conceptually will help a lot. They do the same thing, but it's just not on an array. They're doing it on this stream of data coming back from get async stock data. So eventually we get down to subscribe, which is where everything is initialized, and we start waiting to be pushed for data, and everything just flows down. And at the bottom, we just dispose of the subscription when we're done with it, which means like, yeah, we don't care. We got everything we needed. We don't need to know anymore, which is pretty cool. Don't worry about it if it's like this was not the moment where I was expecting you to get it. So if you didn't get it yet, don't worry about it.
Source is an observable, right?
Yes, source is an observable.
Subscribe returns an observable too. So
subscribe returns the subscription.
So the subscription variable is not an observable anymore?
No, the subscription, after you subscribe, it is now a subscription and no longer an observable.
Okay. So you can't create new filters off of that subscription.
Unless there's some other operator that I'm unaware of, which there might be, that could do that, but no.
I don't think you can do it dynamically. Is that once you subscribe, that terminates that particular observable stream, and that's it.
Right.
But you can subscribe more than once, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can subscribe more than once.
So for instance, on the source, you could subscribe to that multiple times and provide different operators. So it also, things get really interesting when you stop thinking of a single subscription to an observable, but rather you can subscribe to it multiple times and behave differently for each subscription. So for instance, here we're saying, I want to basically get all the stock quotes that are greater than 30 in this case, but you could have another subscription that says, I want to get all of the stock quotes that start with A or whatever. And so you now have another subscription that's admitting, that particular bit of data. So you're taking the overall stream and then you're just filtering it down to the things that you want to transform it in.